Hello, and welcome to the Powder Room, where we discover the message within our messes. I am your host, Ivy Ashley. In today's episode titled Moving Beyond Daddy Issues, we are concluding our daddy issues discussion by focusing on the importance of healing and releasing what we were never meant to carry. In addition to healing the past, we want to be intentional about creating a different future. So, in the very first episode, we talked about uncovering daddy issues. In last week's episode, we confronted daddy issues. And now it's time for us to move beyond daddy issues. So, again, if you have not listened to all of the episodes up to this point, please go back and listen because you do not want to miss any of the information that I have shared over the past few weeks. I'm telling you, it's good stuff, it's healing stuff, it's reflective stuff, it's in your face, get up all in your business stuff, it's get up all in my business stuff. Yes, because I have not been holding anything back in these past few episodes. So I want to make sure that you get everything that I have for you. And so let's get into today's discussion. And I want to start by talking about the state of my relationship with my dad before he passed away. And this was in 2005. And our relationship, was still broken and estranged. I mean, we still went through those periods where we talked and communicated, consistently and honestly, I use the word consistently very loosely, but we would talk, every few months for a while, and then I wouldn't hear from him. And so, I just got accustomed to that pattern and whenever he wanted to talk, I would make myself available and I would reach out whenever, but there was definitely not a cadence of communication. And so in 2005, I think it was the end of June or mid-June of that year, my father had told me that, they found a spot on his lung and they were going to do a biopsy. And they did the biopsy and found out that the spot was cancerous. And then probably, I would say a few weeks later, I received a call while I was on a work trip in El Paso, Texas, that I needed to come home right away. And when you get those kind of calls, it's never good. So there was a whole lot of things, a whole lot of emotions, a whole lot of events that went on, just with me dealing with that information and really feeling within myself that I was about to lose my dad. And so I would encourage you to get my book, Daddy Issues, Love Lessons, and Healing from Toxic Relationships. It is available on Amazon if you want to hear the specific details that happened around that time. But I took a flight home, got home, and my sister went with me to the hospice. Yeah, by this time he was in hospice location that they had placed him in. And by this time they said that it would be, weeks that he had to live. And so when I arrived, my father did not know who I was. The cancer had spread to his brain as well. I mean, it was fast moving. I mean, within weeks of him being diagnosed, it was everywhere. And so I was torn to pieces, guys. I mean, I did not know how to handle the fact that this man who I had always identified as strong and, healthy and able to conquer any and everything lying in this bed. And he looked at me as though he was looking through me and could not place my face. I mean, I was so hurt. And then just to add the fact that our relationship wasn't the best at that time anyway, I mean, it really just added insult to injury. And so, needless to say, a few minutes later, I believe God allowed him to come to himself for a little bit and long enough for him to, you know, be able to recognize me. And, he was like, that's my baby right there. That's my baby. And I was just so, so happy. And I'm going to be honest with you, as I always am, that at that moment, seeing him in such a vulnerable place, the fact that he had disappointed me for 30 plus years at that point, all of that went out of the window. I could care less about any of those things at that point. I just wanted to be there for my dad. And it was only, that day that I had with him, because after that, his wife ordered that they, keep him comfortable. And so he was pretty much drugged and did not regain, consciousness or alertness anymore after that one time. And I, went to the facility the next day and nobody was there. And I just sat in the room, you know, and talked to him and sung, and we just had our moment. And even though he couldn't respond to me, I just wanted to be, in the room with him. Needless to say, the next morning in the middle of the night, he did pass away. And so that was actually the last time I was able to see my father alive. And as you can imagine, once he did pass, my emotions were all over the place. I mean, there was regret, there was guilt. I mean, I was just a mess, and I did not know what to do with all of my emotions. Healing at that point, I'm telling you, was not even a thought in my mind at all. And unfortunately, I allowed myself to sit in my emotions so long that I spent another 10 years dating wrong. So even after the acknowledgement and confronting the fact that I had daddy issues, I still was not in a position to do something about it. I still continue to date the characteristics of the man who was 6 feet under. So that's crazy. Just sit in that for a second. So physically he was gone, but what I was choosing was all the way live. So my healing, my ability to be restored, my ability to be whole, my ability to be healthy, my ability to make sound decisions, did not come until after my dad's death. So, what did my life look like after his death? After years of sitting in my emotions and feeling sorry for myself, I made a choice to heal. This is when I was able and ready to move beyond the daddy issues that had plagued my life at this point for 40 freaking years. For those of you who have encountered daddy issues, are still encountering daddy issues, if there is anything you take away from this discussion, I hope that you take away that the longer that you wait to address your issues, the longer you wait for healing to take place. Moving beyond daddy issues requires us to take accountability for the decisions that we make, because we want to continue to blame our fathers for what they didn't do when we were 6 or how they failed us when we were 10 or when they didn't show up when we were 15. But guess what? You're 50 now. You are making your own decisions. And at this point, we can't continue to blame our dads for our dysfunctional decisions. We have to take responsibility and accountability for our own actions. So, accountability for me meant that if I wanted a different outcome, I had to change the actions and behaviors that had ruled my existence up to that point. So there was some work that I needed to do. It was nobody else's responsibility to save me, nobody else's responsibility to heal me. I had to do the work. So there was mindset work, there was heart work, and there was also emotional work that had to take place. So with mindset work, I had to challenge my old beliefs about my worth, my ability to trust, and my ability to love, because all of those things were faulty because I was basing them on, characteristics of a person that weren't great characteristics in the first place. So I had to totally change the thoughts that directly influenced how I approach things. I had to change what my old pastor back in the day used to say. I had to change my stinking thinking. I had to change it, that's not an easy thing, especially when you've had certain thoughts, especially about men, about relationships, or whatever your issue may be. When you've had those certain thoughts for the majority of your life, it's not easy to just release and stop thinking a certain way. You have to put it into practice and make a conscious decision to shift your mind and the way that it thinks. And that means you have to flood it with new information. You have to flood it with new people, relationships, positive people, positive things. Because I know that I am at the space right now where I cannot allow any and everybody to speak into my life. And if you know any better, you'd be very careful about who you allow to speak into your life, especially in today's date and time, because everybody's a prophet, everybody got a word from the Lord, but everybody who's saying, they got a word, it ain't from God. Because I swear, God is not talking as much as people are saying that he's talking. I just refuse to believe it. Some of this stuff God is not saying. People are wrapped in their flesh, wrapped in their own emotions, and they are talking out of the sides of their mouths, and they are feeding on the vulnerability, on the hurt and the pain of people, and making a profit. Please be careful about who you allow to speak into your life, on social media that you're listening to. There's a lot of people that I had to unfollow because I realized that the things that they were saying was not agreeing with my spirit. It may sound like God, but it's laced in flesh. And I swear, I have too many things to contend with on my own than to be dealing with anybody else's stuff. So please, this was nowhere in my notes, but somebody needed to hear that today. Guard your ear gates, your eye gates at all cost. Don't let every and anybody speak into you. Now back to our regularly scheduled programs. So, mindset work. That's what we were talking about. So, aside from mindset work, I also had to do heart work. And this was me learning how to receive love and how to give love healthily, how to forgive, and how to give without fear. That is so powerful. So, so, so powerful. Learning how to receive love. And I didn't really realize that that was an issue, for me until, I scanned, the relationships that I had been in the past and realized that when it came to receiving love, it was bare minimum. And I probably can name, you know, or count the relationships on one hand and have, a few fingers left over of the ones that I really felt love. Now, I feel like some of the men in my life have been in some strong like towards me. But for me, knowing what love is and what love does and does not do, them jokers ain't love me, child. It ain't no way. But it's what I accepted because I was accepting mediocre. So mediocre is what they gave me. So I had to change and do some hard work and analyze my heart. I had to eliminate bitterness, eliminate any unforgiveness that I had held in my heart toward my father, eliminate the bitterness and the unforgiveness of the men that I had in relationships with, who I felt I gave 100% to, and they took advantage of my kindness. Also, part of my heart work was to stop waiting on the apology that I never received anyway. And I'm talking about from my dad, because in all of his I'm going to do things better and things are going to change, he never apologized about the state of our relationship or, how he was insufficient in his dealings with me. That's to put it nicely. He never, never, never apologized. Never. And then lastly, I had some emotional work to do, identifying my triggers, being very aware of the words and the behaviors that spark something in me and remind me of something from my past. Like I've said on previous episodes, that your triggers or our triggers are not anyone's responsibility but ours. But we should communicate what our triggers are to those around us. And then in response, if they love us, they'll be aware not to intentionally trigger us. Because if you find someone, again, after they trigger you or after you have that discussion with them and they still trigger you, mm, that's a relationship that I would be better off not having. Because after I give you information and you don't use it, you don't love me. You don't consider me. And because of that, you don't deserve to be in my life. Emotional work also included me learning how to regulate my emotions. Many people may not believe this about me, but I can definitely be very, very emotional. I try not to make emotional decisions, but I do sometimes. But now that I'm more aware that I do that, I do less of it. And what helped me to do less of that is therapy. God is good and therapy is amazing. And when you are able to connect, with a therapist who just really connects with you and who is able to give you the appropriate guidance and allows you to, you know, walk towards your own conclusions, it is such an amazing thing. Healing is not easy. It is not easy at all, but it is so worth it. But you have to do the work. You have to change your mind. You have to adjust your heart and your emotions. You have to. There's absolutely no way around it. How did I get to the point that I was able to move beyond daddy issues? Because this had been such a tremendous part of my life for such a long time. How did I get past this whole era? How did I get to the place where I can think about and talk about my dad and not be angry? One of the things that my dad's death did for me is it helped me to realize that my healing does not need a confirmation. My healing does not need closure, and my healing does not need acknowledgement. So whether, the other person ever acknowledges the pain that they caused you, we cannot give anybody that much power to hold us up from walking into wholeness. You don't need anybody to confirm your feelings. Your feelings are your feelings. Also, what helped me move beyond daddy issues is therapy has become a way of life for me. It's how I make sure I continue to choose healing on a daily basis because I believe or I know I cannot afford to get stuck in my pain ever again because I battle with depression, or I have battled with depression in the past, and I don't want to ever go back to that place again. I don't. It's a dark moment for me when I get into that place. So being constantly and consistently aware of my emotions helps me to stay healthy. I feel what I feel. I say what I need to say. I don't hold things back. Of course, I choose my battles because every issue does not need to turn into a battle, but I don't close my mouth on things that I used to close my mouth on. I let people know how I feel, and I do it respectfully, but I'm not going to alleviate your uncomfortability at the expense of my saneness. I'm not going to do it. I love me too much for that. Also, what has helped me is accountability. Accountability to God, accountability to myself, and accountability to others. If you don't have anybody in your life who can check you, you need to find some new friends. Because I have some people in my life who can tell me that I'm wrong. Now, I may not like it. I may get a little, angry at the moment. But those who I have in my life who can do that, I know the place that it's coming from. And so I don't question their motives. And I know they love me enough not to have me or want to see me wallow in my wrong. So again, if you don't have people in your life that you can be accountable to and who can check you when you need to be checked, then you need to check your circle, because that's not a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing. One thing about healing is that healing is not a destination. It is a journey that you choose every day. And because of that, it is so important that we give ourselves grace and give ourselves time. Give yourself some grace. Don't be so hard on yourself, and give yourself time, because everybody's journey is different, and everybody's journey is their journey. So I want to encourage you that no matter how painful it is, no matter how uncomfortable it is, allow yourself to do the work. If you don't have, a therapist, please seek one. If you have jobs that have an EAP program, utilize those benefits. I know my company utilizes a site called BetterHelp, and that's where I have the therapist that I see now, and she is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So please, the help is out there. Please get help. Remember, it's time for us to release those things that we were never meant to carry anyway. The thing about healing is it doesn't mean that the past is erased. However, it does mean that we're choosing not to live from the pain anymore. We're moving beyond daddy issues, or whatever your issue may be. Now, this is an interesting way to close out the daddy issues series. And wasn't a lot of, fun and games and jokes today, but, it is really my desire to see people healed, to see people whole. to see people living life to the fullness. And there is no reason why you can't have the life that you desire to have. So I encourage you, whatever you have to do, however you need to position yourself to do it, make it happen. I still want to hear from you. Please reach out to me on social media. I have a Instagram page, thepowderroom.pod. Also, I have a Facebook page, The Powder Room Podcast. You can always email me at consultiva@gmail.com. I am so excited about this journey that we continue to be on. Guys, can you believe we only have, and I can't remember whether it's 1 or 2 episodes in this season. I am so grateful for the connection, so grateful for, the audience, those of you who have been listening to me consistently from day one. I appreciate you and thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please join me next week, where I believe the topic is going to be about balance, but don't quote me on that. I'm still, kind of playing with some topics in my head to, deal with these last couple of episodes. So I believe we're going to talk about the importance of balance and finding balance. But if I come with something different, don't be surprised, okay? All right. This is your host, Ivy Ashley, and I thank you so much for meeting me today in the Powder Room, where we always find the message within our messes. Take care.